Hey guys, I'm Iwood Cosplay, and today we're gonna do Chainsawman. So the patterns are not made yet. If this video can get over 100k views, then I'll put this pattern up for free down below, but I'll need your help. So you guys can like, comment, and share. Otherwise, it's gonna be available down for you guys to purchase in my shop. There's a lot to cover, so let's get into this. This first part is going to be A1, and we're gonna need to do a bevel cut. If you got the foam kit, it's gonna be the edge that's not cut all the way, and the reason for that is so that you guys can do the 45-degree cut. Unless noted, everything else is a straight cut. 45 degree is going to be attached along this edge of part A3. You guys already know the deal. It's going to be contact cement along the two edges that come together. Once it's dry, carefully put the two seam edges together. Once you have that, we're going to use a heat gun to help shape and mold this front piece. And here you see the good old styrofoam ball that I use for all my tutorials. Basically, we're heating up the foam and shaping it around the curve of the ball. Following along on the pattern, this piece is going to be called A2. Here, in this edge, and we're putting contact cement on it, do the same thing to the corresponding side part of the mask. Do that for both pieces, let them dry, and then carefully line up the edges like so. For this part, the eyes or the grills, before it's finalized, make sure you're happy with the placement before you finalize the position. This front piece, I'm actually removing it. It was actually a flaw in my design. I'm just gonna cut it out. And with that, we're done with the front of the face of Group A. This next part is going to be the blade that goes in front of his head. This part is labeled A4. If you bought the kit, it's going to come with balsa wood. That's going to provide support so that the blade doesn't wobble around. All we're doing here is putting contact cement on one side of A4. And we'll do the same thing to the corresponding side of A5. And we're going to speed it up with the blow dryer. For this next part, we're going to use 4mm adhesive. You can pick this up at my store as well. So this is going to make this part way easier. The blade already has contact cement, and all you need to do is stick it onto the 4mm foam. Carefully cut out the extra pieces. Once we've done that, then we just have to put the contact cement on the other side, and then sandwich it with another side of 4mm adhesive. This is what the blade looks like, completely sandwiched between two pieces of 4mm adhesive. On my store, there's two options. There's the full helmet and there's the chain link kit. The chain link kit is this part right here. You're gonna need this for this blade part and the arm. Before you cut out each piece, apply contact cement to just the base of the foam kit. Avoid putting glue on the blade section. This is the 2mm chain link that comes with the foam kit as well. You cut out the 2mm detail, you'll realize that the back is hard to peel off. The trick I learned is if you slightly score the back of the paper and you bend it in half, you can peel off the back easier. And just like that, carefully place it on to the 8mm piece. Before we cut anything out, we have to do the same thing on the other side as well. You can see here approximately how many pieces we've used. Once you've done all that, then we can start cutting it out. And it'll look like that. Next, all we need to do is put contact cement onto the seam edge of the blade and contact cement to this side of the roller chain. Then we'll place it onto this side of the blade. And we're going to alternate small and big. Just for extra support, I'm going to use super glue between each of the roller chains. If you did everything correctly, you should have something that looks like this. All I've used is just one row of each, thank goodness, because it's a lot of details. Once you have the blade done, we're going to put this base on the back of it so that it can attach to the inside of the mask. We're going to attach it using contact cement. This piece is going to sit inside the mask. We already see it's coming together. Here's a tip. Before I glue it together, I like to trace the outline so that I know exactly how much glue I'm going to put in there. And this helps when you're putting the piece inside, just because the position is already marked. Congrats, we're roughly at the 4-minute mark. Grab a coffee and we'll come back to Group B. Here you'll notice the teeth is already on. And the reason why I'm doing this tutorial in this order, because I realized this is probably the best way to organize everything instead of jumping around. That's the thing I had to do when I was filming this video. If you enjoyed your break, let's get into Group B. Group B is going to be broken down to the sides and the back. That's what we're doing here. This part is going to be called A6. You can see that the positions are already marked. That's going to be easy for you guys to just stick and glue together. Especially if you bought the foam kit. It comes with the pieces already laser cut and on the adhesive. It just makes it way easier to do. But you can still follow along with the pattern as well. For this part on A7, make sure you avoid this region because we're not stacking anything on top of that. A6 is the adhesive. Peel it off and just position and stick it on. And like that, we have it done. Because the positions are already marked, there's no guesswork in here. Just try to stay inside the lines. I know I didn't stay right here, but we can always come back and clean it up. This next piece is going to be A9. Pretty straightforward. Next is going to be the top part, A11. And A9 is going to sit right there. This next part is going to be A10. Just like that, it's pretty straightforward. Here's a tip I like to use. I like to use the grinding stone tip just to round off the edges of what seems to be sheet metal. Usually if you give it a bevel or a rounded edge, it looks more polished. For this part, we're just using super glue. Alright, I call this Game Shark, but it's just a super glue accelerator. It makes the super glue cure even faster. And with that, we're done with the side piece of Group B. For this next part, you're gonna see this diagram. I know it looks confusing, but if there's anything you can take away from this is to learn how to do a bevel cut and a valley cut. Basically cut out the pattern. This is B1, you're following along. It's already labeled bevel cut and it has the arrows, you know which way to bevel. Like everything else, we're just gonna transfer that onto foam. So I recommend you mark the direction on the foam. Next, we're gonna go to B2 and make these darts right along these edges. Take B2 and transfer that onto a 4mm piece of foam. Once I have the pattern transferred, I'm going to use a straight edge to connect the registration marks. Do that for all the registration marks. This is the part that's confusing, but I can't stress enough. If you look at the pattern, each of the lines are going to be marked and labeled accordingly. Let's start off by doing a bevel cut because you guys are familiar with that. We're going to cut everything that's a bevel cut. Keep note of the direction we're going to bevel. And just like that, you should have a beveled edge like this. And that part is B3, it's a small strip. It's gonna sit on there like that. Now this edge is the only edge that's going to be a score cut. It's like a straight line, but you don't cut all the way through. Be careful here. Here, we're gonna do a valley cut. The valley cut, I haven't shown you in any other tutorials. If you need to come back and replay this a few times, don't worry. Specifically, it's going to be a half valley, and I'm going to show you a trick on how to do that. Here, you're going to use a bevel edge and follow the arrow according to pattern. Don't cut all the way through. This is a bevel cutter from Foamworks. For convenience, you can pick one up from Amazon. I'll have a link down below for you guys. What I recommend is taking the bevel cutter and testing it on some scrap foam. Here it is 4mm. We want to test that on a scrap 4mm, that you don't cut all the way through on the final product. You see here, it doesn't cut all the way through, and we're going to fold it backwards, and it's going to create an overhang like this. We're going to cut off the overhang. With that, when we fold it back, we will have created a half valley. And what that does is it helps create a seamless crease. We do that to the other side as well. Doing that correctly, you have something that looks like this. Apply contact cement and put the two edges together to hold that position. Once again, this is B2. This is probably the most confusing part of this entire build. This is B3, putting some glue on, and we're just connecting all the pieces together. Okay, this is B1. B1's connected right there. This is 4mm. The one I showed you guys right there was actually 8mm, but the idea is the same. If you do everything properly, you should have something that looks like this. The most difficult part is done. Now all we need to do is put contact cement along this edge and the corresponding edge of the side piece. Now you can use a blow dryer to speed it up and carefully put it together. Alright. There it is. Do that same thing to the other side and you'll have something that looks like this. Once we have all that done, the next piece we need to put on is B4. With B4, I didn't show you guys this, but you guys already know. I just put contact cement to both the contacting surfaces and I glued it on. If you do everything correctly, you should have something that looks like this. The next part is going to be this pipe insert. This pipe insert is actually made up of multiple parts stacked together. We'll call them B5. All we're doing is basically sandwiching these pieces together. We'll have something that looks like this. And specifically for this part, we're going to have wedges that are going to be stacked together. This part, if you're following along, is B6. We're putting contact cement on all of them and sandwiching them together. Next, we're going to position it B5. Take note, it's going to be this top half of B5. Put the two pieces together and we'll have something that looks like this. This template piece will come with a foam kit. Basically, you're lining it up and this is going to be the side profile of what we're going to mark off the extra and cut it off. You might see a gap. Don't worry about it because that side is going to be gone to the back of the helmet. To make things a little bit smoother, we're going to use some sanding paper, sand it out. And if you did everything right, you should have something that looks like this. We're going to take that piece centered to this line, B4, and mark its position. And then apply contact cement to both sides and stick it together. Next, we're going to have B7, which is the longer one of the two strips. That longer one is going to sit on the top part, and the shorter one is going to sit on the bottom. And the skinny strip is going to sit on the top. And you guys already know the deal. I just put contact cement on both surfaces and stuck them together. And with that, we're done with the details that go on the back. Next, we have B9, which is going to be this front lip. Mark its position. Of course, put contact cement and then stick the two edges together. And if you now this piece is called B11. There's two of them and we're stacking it together. Now B11 is going to sit inside the back piece. It's going to help make it snug for the user. Notice we're keeping a margin, which is going to allow for this back area that we're going to go into next. Next, we're going up to this area, B12. The markings you see here is the back side. B12 is going to consist of these three strips. These lines are meant to be for a valley cut. Once you have the valley cut, apply contact cement. Next, we're going to apply contact cement to each of the strips' edge. Make sure the orientation is correct before you put them together. Then we're going to start off at this end. Slowly and carefully place it together. Create an extra detail on putting it together with a step, as you can see here. Do that for the rest of the strip. And if you have everything properly, you should have something that looks like this. Carefully line up these two holes. Once you have the holes centered, I recommend putting some registration marks that when you put them together, you know exactly where they go. And I'm going to apply contact cement to both corresponding edges. And there it is, the registration marks lined up. Next, we're using this part, B13. It's going to be a flap that sits on this part specifically. It's basically there to hold the flaps of B12 down. Hopefully I didn't lose any of you guys. Like I said, this part is confusing just because there's a lot of valley, bevels, and straight and score cuts. If you need to, please come back to this. And with that, we're done with this video tutorial. Congratulations, it wasn't too bad. It's a little bit longer than I thought, but this is a very complicated build, like I said. If you guys need to come back to it, please come back to it. If you guys like this video, make sure you hit that like button, get over 100K. I'll put the pattern out for free so that everyone can build this. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.